sure. There are just tons of how-tos on how to stay young, what exercises to do, what to eat, what anti-aging product you put on your skin, even brain exercises that you can do to stay young. But none of these how-tos, none of these pale in comparison to lifelong learning. That is the key to staying young. Henry Ford once said, anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning is young. Again, anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 80 or 20. Anyone who keeps learning is young. So lifelong learning is not only the key to staying young, but more importantly, it's been the anchor for me as I navigated through my career in the past 27 years. So when I first graduated from university, actually from UBC here, electrical engineering, they were people who had stayed in the same company from pretty much when they graduated from university, same job for the past 10, 20 years, and sometimes maybe sitting in the same seat even for 10, 15 years. There's nothing wrong with that, but we know that's not how it is today. And for them, as role models, for me at that time, when I looked at how they learned, they kept learning, but then they were always just, I shouldn't say just, but they were growing in expertise in their one field. They were staying in one field from beginning to end. And as I said, the pace of change has really been different in the past quarter century. Unprecedented technological changes. Just think back to time when long distance was something that you had to pay for, right? How many of you actually remember that, right? Like now we have all you can talk on your phone, right? There was also something called ISDN, and I don't know how many of you from the telecoms still remember that. It was really the data service that never took off. It was 64 kilobits per second, and we thought, whoa, that was exciting. And then there was voicemail. Well, remember there's this box that used to sit beside your kitchen phone, that little black box? What was that thing again? Answering machine? Well, with voice now, and we thought, oh, that's fantastic. But wait a minute, the best is yet to come. The internet. Remember when we first had dial internet? It was 56 kilobits per second, and we thought, whoa, that was exciting. And then we had high speed, the 1.5. And the rest has been history. We can actually get up to more than 300 megabits to our home, certainly over 10 megabits to our phone. Within our fingertips, we have access to entertainment and information, all on our smartphone. That is the world that we live in now. So in the workplace, there's been a lot of new changes as well when you think about it. When I look around my workplace, terms like artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotic process automation, all of these things are common terms now, and they certainly were not even 5, 10 years ago. So to keep pace with this change, the only way to do it is lifelong learning. So even as a young grad, when I was starting out, I knew that I was not someone who was going to stay in the same job for the next 10, 15 years, doing the same thing. That's just not me. But what I didn't know was the amount of learning that I would have to do, that keep learning, as well as whom I was learning from. So what was my career like? I started out as an engineer in training. At a time when there was a lot of new changes in telecom. So within 2 or 3 years of different rotations, I was promoted to become become an engineering manager. So 6 years in, that's what I was doing. I had my own team, I hired my own people, I had a budget, I had my own lab. I was working with marketing to turn ideas into reality, and also to create services, consumer services, to better the lives of our residential customers. I was really enjoying it. No, I was actually having the time of my life. I really, really enjoyed what I was doing. And that was kind of that way for the next 9 years as I moved through different engineering manager roles, with different portfolios sometimes, or different teams. But I was always doing something interesting, something new, something that I love. And amidst all that time, I also gave birth to 2 amazing human beings sitting here right now. And at that time, I thought to myself, my next promotion is going to be around the corner. Well, as Carol said, sometimes things change and they just kind of come very unexpectedly. And that was the case for me. 15 years into my career, the company I was working for at that time decided they were going to consolidate all of the engineering and technology jobs into 2 cities in Canada. Well, guess what? Vancouver was not one of them. And I love Vancouver. This is where I grew up. My family's here. I was not going to move. And what were my options? I took a look at my colleagues and teammates at that time. And yeah, some of them, they left the company and went to work for a competitor. Some went to work for vendors. And some really just took a completely different path of going to a different industry sector altogether and started their own business, moving to financial planning, teaching. Some went back to university to study. And there were some that retired. And there was the last bunch that decided to stay in the company and change fields. I belong to this last group. So what was I going to move into? I looked at what I liked and I said, well, I don't want to go into the back-end support of services because I want it to be closer to the customer. I was also very interested in business planning. So I thought, okay, now's the time to take the plunge and try business planning and execution. So what does that mean? That includes project management, business analytics, and strategy planning. Did I know much about those things at that time? Well, I thought I did, but in retrospect, not as much as I really thought. I'd have to say that I'm forever grateful for the VP that took a chance on me and hired me into her business team. Because really, like I said, I didn't really know too much in this arena. Now, looking back, landing that first role was actually an easy thing. The hardest part was for me to rebrand myself as someone who can do these things. To relearn, to have new skill sets, to be successful in this new field. So you see, up to that point in my career, I was always known as the expert. And I think really anyone who's been in the engineering field, technology field, well, that's where your value derives from. That, because of what you know. And a lot of times you are kind of the expert at the table. But once I moved into the business side, I was no longer that. Fumbled. I was no longer the expert. I had to start from the bottom rung of the ladder. And I had to learn from the people around me. And who were some of these people? A lot of them were people that were quite a bit younger than me, less tenured, business grads out of school for just maybe 4 or 5 years, but they've been doing that type of work. I had to learn hard skills like creating pivot tables and macros in Excel. And then there was the half art and half science of being able to tell a convincing story using PowerPoint. And then there's also probably more of an art than science, is to use whatever data points you have, be able to prove any point you want to make. And then there's the entirely different arena of soft skills, which is human change management. How do you get people to change and adopt new processes and tools? As I found out with any projects, the technical solution part was the easier half. What was tougher a lot of times was indeed the human change management. So how did I learn these things? Well, these were all on-the-job learning, really. Excel, yeah, sure, I could take a course. But for the rest of these, I was really observing people around me. It's very much like what Kara said. You take a look at the people who do it well, and sometimes go up to them and ask, hey, what's the secret sauce? Can you teach me? And sometimes it is by pure observation. Did it feel intimidating to learn from people younger, less tenured? Yeah. It required huge doses of humility. And not only did I learn from younger people, but I also learned that a lot of times people who are in the front line, in the trenches, people who deal directly with customers, like salespeople, call center agents, or technicians that come to your home to do your work, they know actually a lot more than what we office people think we know. It's easy to believe this misconception as management professionals that we know more because we plan things 12, 24 months in advance, we set policies and guidelines, but unless we're actually out there in the trenches to hear what the customers are saying, we really don't know. So looking back, I would say that what made my transition from technology management to project management or program management easier was that I had fantastic role models. 2 years into my job as an engineering manager, I had a call one day. It was from a senior engineer, not just any senior engineer, it was my mentor actually, someone that I learned from for 2 years as a young engineer. And he said, hey Winnie, I see that you have a posting for an IVR engineering job, IVR for interactive voice response. And I said, yeah, I do. The IVR is a growing portfolio, and my current IVR engineer really needs some help. He's swamped. Can you think of some good people to recommend? Because you've been with the company for a while, and you know you're well connected. You know so many people. And what he said to me afterwards, right after that, really shocked me. He said, Winnie, what about me? Would you consider me? I thought, wait a minute. With your experience, you're well respected in your current field. And people know you well as a senior engineer who can solve a lot of technology problems and come up with innovative solutions. Why would you want a job on my team? Right? And so I had to find out, and he said, you know, my current role right now, I can see that is not going to keep on going. Because all of the exciting stuff is happening on the enhanced voice services and IP data network. I need to make a move soon, and I can't wait for too long. So long story short, he moved to my team. It felt a bit odd for me to do performance management or performance evaluation on someone that was my mentor. It felt really odd in a way for him to report to me. But at the end, really, he became a very successful IVR engineer. And by the time he retired, which is just a few years ago, he was known as someone who knew the IVR technology and business from soup to nuts. And some of the IVR services that he had designed and created are still ones that we're using today. So I would say that as a mentor, even though he just officially And he was truly an inspiration to me in terms of lifelong learning. So as I reflect on my journey from technology management to strategic program management, I found myself learning a lot of skills that I would say probably a page from the playbook of management consultants. Things such as using programmatic approach to solve business problems, or using business analytics to put together a business case, or using metrics and key performance indicators to prove out the project results and success. All of these things are things I have learned in my world as a program manager. And these 3 skills have really enabled me to be successful in what I'm doing now. I'm happy to say that by now, I'm no longer known for any accomplishments from engineering. This has been a number of years. But what I am known for is being a strategic program manager in the area of systems, technician systems. And as my previous mentor had been an inspiration and encouragement to me for lifelong learning, I hope I can do the same for those around me. You see, what we learn, the what, is only half the equation. The other half is who we learn it from. We can always learn something from people around us. They may be more experienced than us, they may be less experienced than us. They all have something to offer, and we can all learn from them. We are often simultaneously a teacher and also a student, learning and also teaching others. So gone are the days of linear career, and the only constant is change. The way to navigate through the various changes in one's career is to embrace lifelong learning. So here's my challenge to you tonight. Adopt a habit of lifelong learning. Add to it a humble heart. And then try to see everyone through a positive lens. Remember, keep learning and stay young forever. Thank you.